Hey guys, welcome to another watch review. Today we're looking at the Doxa 750T. Now Doxa is a company that you may not have heard of, and that's because these watches are not sold in any dealers, or actually they might be sold in only one dealer in the US, and just about everyone who buys these buys them online, either through directly from Doxa on the website, or people buy them used. So, Doxa is a company that was an innovator in the dive watch category. In the 1960s, Doxa realized that diving was becoming a more popular sport, in part to people like Jacques Cousteau. And Rolex and Blancpain had been successful in marketing dive watches. They had the Rolex Submariner and the Blancpain 50 Fathoms. And Doxa decided to go about building a dive watch that would be useful for real divers. So in the late 60s, Doxa released their first orange-faced dive watch, which was the Sub 300T. And after that, I'm not sure exactly what happened to Doxa. I know they make some other watches that are I guess lower tier, that they sell only in Europe, but I know that they started re-releasing their dive watches, such as this one, beginning in 2002. So unless you have a vintage Doxa, yours was the ones that are out there are from post 2002. So Doxa was the first company, like I said, to make an orange-faced dive watch, and these orange faces are a lot of what Doxa is known for, and they're real trademark Doxa thing. So they decided to do an orange face because in their testing they found that bright dial colors worked well in murky water. So they've done orange, they've done yellow, they do blue. Now they're going to release pretty soon one with a turquoise face. So there's a lot of interesting dial colors that Doxa makes. Oh, and there's a very nice silver color also. And each color has a different name. The orange are called the Professional, black dials are called the Shark Hunters, blue dials are called the Caribbeans, and so on. So let's talk about this one. This is the 750T Professional, and Professional means it has an orange dial. This watch is 45 millimeters in width, not accounting the crown, so it's a big watch. But the dial is only about 30 millimeters, so there's a lot of case going on here. It's a cushion-shaped case, and that's it's a vintage look, and that's a holdover from the vintage Doxas. And it's about 14 millimeters thick, so it's chunky. It's got a big case, so this is quite a big watch. Not too big to wear. I have about a 7.5-inch wrist, and I think it fits me well. But some people find it too big and like the smaller Doxa models. So it has a ETA 28-24 movement, pretty common movement, but good movement. A flat sapphire crystal. It has a 120 click bezel. And it has 21 millimeter lugs, which are an odd size and kind of annoying. So now let's talk about a few important Doxa things here. First, let's talk about this bezel. If you look closely at it, you can see that it kind of has two rings. There's this outer polished ring and an inner brushed ring. On the inner ring, it's a normal dive timer bezel. It's 5, 10, 15 minutes, so on, every 5 minutes, and just marks for the individual minutes. But on the outside, you can see it says 60 feet, 100, let's see, 60 feet, and then 190, 150, 140, 130, so on, so 80, 70. And these feet, these are depth readings, and they match up with these numbers. So this is a no decompression bezel, and what that means is, if you dive for, let's say, 15 minutes, you can stay at 120 feet for 15 minutes, and not have to go through decompression. So this is a really it's an interesting bezel for divers. It's nothing that you would really rely on today, at least with dive computers and PADI tables and so on. But I guess it actually is useful, and it's just it's a cool thing to have on a dive watch, to have this dive table that actually is useful. So I don't think any other company puts this on their watches, and it's a real Doxa thing. Now next, let's talk about this bracelet. This is an unusual looking bracelet, at least for a modern watch, and this is what you call a beads of rice bracelet. This is a modern interpretation of the original Doxa beads of rice bracelets. On the original ones, each of these little pieces of rice, that's where it gets its name from, it looks like kind of pieces of rice, were individual pieces, and so the bracelet would kind of like have a lot of curve to it. It would kind of like flop around, and it wasn't quite as sturdy as this one, because here, look at this. This is really interesting. See, each of these links is actually a solid piece, and you can see that on the back here. See, you have your outer link, but then each row of beads of rice, it's actually a solid piece that they kind of just shape the top to make it look like the old vintage bracelets, where each of these was a separate piece. So that makes it more robust, but it still gives you that vintage look. So I think it's a pretty clever idea, and it works very well. It's a very comfortable bracelet, and you get a really sturdy, modern, quality bracelet with that vintage look. So as far as I'm concerned, it's good. Here's the clasp. It's a traditional flip lock, signed Doxa, and it has a wetsuit diver's extension, so you can pop this open and put it over your wetsuit if you're wearing a thick one. And then on the case back, there's a lot of writing. You have the Jennyfish logo. It tells you the model and all that stuff, and it tells you what number out of the series this is. They made 5,000 750Ts, and that's 5,000 out of every color. So it tells you what number you have out of that series. So this is it's a cool vintage looking watch, but it's really big, so it's as big as modern dive watches. This is not produced anymore. They stopped. Well, I guess they did their release of 5,000 pieces, and they sold them all out. So you can't buy a new 750T anymore. So you have to buy one used if you really want one. But they do sell very similar models. They're just a little bit smaller. And there's some new models coming out soon from Doxa. So I think it's a cool watch. If you like vintage-inspired watches, or if you like dive watches, this is a great one to have. It has a good history. It was, well, not this specific model, but Doxas like this were worn by great divers like Jacques Cousteau. And Doxa really has a cult following these days. So this is the Doxa 750T. Thanks for watching the review, guys, and if you want to see more reviews, you can check out my